Joining us on the line now is American actor Josh Mikel, the playwright, director. As well as that, he also plays Jared on AMC's The Walking Dead and has also been in Cell, Nashville and also Game Night. First things first, Josh, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much for coming on. I think mainly today we'll talk about The Walking Dead and also touch on some of the upcoming projects that you're involved in that look really, really exciting. But starting on The Walking Dead, you live in Atlanta, but before you were in it, were you a fan of the show?
I was, yeah. I had watched the first couple of seasons and was supportive of it because of what it was doing for the Georgia film industry, and it was bringing so much attention to the Georgia industry. And then, I started going through some family issues and stepped away from it. So when I booked it, I had to catch up. I had to play catch up pretty quick.
What was it like getting the phone call when you knew you'd be in The Walking Dead? Was it kind of excitement from then on?
It was unreal, yeah. I'd auditioned maybe 10 or 15 times before, and I knew this particular role I had maybe my strongest read for, so I was real excited. And they read me a couple times for both the parts of Gavin and Jared. Jason Warner-Smith, who plays Gavin, he also read for Jared, and I'd like to track those tapes down, actually. I think that'd be fun for folks to see us reading those opposite parts, but it was amazing. I had to write a passage for Georgia actors, and to be on a show like that so many folks have worked so long and hard on, it was an amazing call to get.
We spoke to Jason last week, actually, and he spoke very fondly of you, saying that you spent a lot of time on set together. What was it like working with him in particular?
I had seen Jason before in a play he had done and was a big fan of his work before I even met him. And then I definitely had seen him around the area, and then finally getting on set with him and meeting him and getting to know him. It was fantastic being there on our first day together, both kind of like fish out of water in this huge universe that is the set of Walking Dead. And then, we became quick friends, and we've done a couple cons together. We were over in Gloucester and Guildford not too long ago, and he's just a great dude.
Going back to what you said, did you say, you auditioned 15 times for The Walking Dead before you got the part of Jared?
Yeah, probably 10 or 15, yeah. It was stuff all across the board. It's always, dummy sides, so they don't really reveal what you're auditioning for. Sometimes it'll be stuff that's kind of close, like in the case of the sides we got for Gavin and Jared. Those scenes were pretty close to the first exchange scene that happens in episode 702. But other times it would be something quick, and, I think there's a couple of cases where I read the same sides in different auditions on tape for casting. But yeah, a number of auditions before I got the thing.
Definitely shows you, doesn't it, to young actors, don't give up easily, because that's fantastic. And you landed such a brilliant role at the end of it in Jared.
Exactly, yeah. Every single one of them I was bummed about. When you have an opportunity to be on a show like Walking Dead, when you get the audition, it's amazing, and you're stoked, and you start thinking about all the possibilities of what that world might open up for you and how cool it would be to be a part of something that's so well revered. And then when you don't get it, you're bummed. But yeah, I've been asked a couple of times if you could play anybody else or if you could have auditioned for anything else on the show, what would it have been? And I really can't think of anything else. I truly feel like this was the role for me. I felt very happy with where I landed.
Really is an intriguing character, and I think I'm a big fan of the show. If I was to describe the character of Jared, according to radio rules in the UK, I probably wouldn't be allowed to use a lot of the language, because he really is not a nice character, is he?
No, he is a real piece of work. Yeah, a violent instigator. I always say he has a devaluation for human life consequence. I think part of what I've used, I guess, is the trauma of going through all this kind of just made him cared less about those around him and became kind of supremely selfish.
Got to be honest, it's testament to you as an actor as well, because I think we see Jared and you think, oh, he's pretty evil in that, but the more we see him, the more kind of invested in the hatred of some of the things this guy does. You've made him such a key character in the show. And I want to ask on that, you mentioned Jason Warner-Smith earlier, and if you look at a lot of the villains in The Walking Dead, even someone like Negan, there's a lot of backstory towards them. They also seem to show, in various instances, some remorse. But with Jared, you don't really seem to get that human side at all. As an actor, do you enjoy having that freedom? And do you think Jared does actually have some remorse and is just quite good at hiding it?
Yeah, I do think there's something in there somewhere. I think to play him just strictly as a villain is maybe a conceit to the character, but it is fun having free reign to do kind of whatever he wants. The way I'd kind of, like I was mentioning before, the way I treat that, I guess, is that he, gone through a certain amount of trauma, and so his lashing out is not because there's not a human in there. It's because he's just somewhere else, and he may not recuperate from. But yeah, it's a fun thing to be able to free reign to just be a complete, yeah, exactly.
Now, going back to Jason Warner-Smith as well, he said, obviously his character Gavin was killed off, and he was saying that very sad because he's made good friends with yourself on the show. When you read that Gavin was going to die, I know you two were very close on the set. Were you upset about that?
I was, yeah, of course. You hate to see a character's run and that we came to the show at the same time, and our universes have kept kind of split in the show at this point, so that in itself was sad, and then to know that we don't get to see each other again, at least without flashbacks or something, if that ever happens. But it was a bummer. It's a sad thing to see him, and it's brought us on a personal side to be able to hang out with him on set and kind of share this thing together was pretty amazing too. And the journey of being on the show and watching it together, but also everything that happens outside of it, the optics of being on a show like this, it was something we were kind of going through together, and we'll continue to. Working conventions and attention we've gotten on social media suddenly because we're on a show like Walking Dead, that's something we were able to kind of enjoy together, which was great. The hair head, Taylor, the first thing she said to us when we walked in the trailer was, "Well, everyone comes here to die." So, it's just a matter of when on a show like Walking Dead, and we're fortunate to have gotten the number of episodes we've gotten out of it. And, I think Jason hit 8 or 9, I'm somewhere around there, and I'm still alive, and I've got 7 or 8, and so I'm excited.
On the set itself, what is it like working on the Walking Dead set? Because, of course, you've been quite lucky in that you've had the dealings with the Kingdom, but also you're now at the Hilltop. You had the whole journey to the Hilltop. What's it been like working with some of the actors? I know you've worked, for instance, with people like Lenny James, Lauren Cohen. How have you found the whole experience, and have you enjoyed having the chance to move around to different parts of the Walking Dead?
Yeah, well, it's amazing because you would assume being on a show as big as The Walking Dead that the anxiety and the nerves would go through the roof, but it's an amazing set to be on because it's such a well-oiled machine, and everyone there is top of their game. It's one of the biggest shows on TV, so the folks that are working it are just amazingly professional, but also my first day on set working that episode 702, the first exchange scene between the Saviors and the Kingdom, Greg Nicotero was directing it, and the amount of freedom he gave us to play, and we had plenty of rehearsal time, which is a lot of times actually pretty rare on sets. So we had tons of time to rehearse it and figure out what worked the best, and it's a really comfortable thing. And working with Lenny, I love Snatch and had grown up loving his work. So to get to work with him, he's just an amazingly professional actor, and he is kind of intimidating sometimes because he stays in his accent, and he's very kind. And I was talking about this the other day. I'm not sure if it's a common British thing to not be as approachable, but once you do approach him, he's not wearing his feelings on his sleeve. He's not going out of his way to bullshit with people. But then once you start talking to him, he's the sweetest dude around. It's just, he's intimidating. And I think just by nature of being an actor that I revere, I was worried about talking to him. And then Lauren is so sweet. Despite Maggie hitting me in the face with a rifle, Lauren was very kind about it. Yeah. Everybody on that set is amazing. Everybody that I've met from the cast, got to sit down with Norman at lunch one day, and Jeffrey Dean is a sweetheart. Everybody, I think the nature of the show, it being set outdoors and the kind of circumstances that the crew and cast are making this show under, I think it kind of weeds out a lot of attitudes. Folks that develop an attitude don't last long.
Sounds like such a cool show to kind of be a part of. Going back to what you said earlier about Jared, you obviously said you've got quite a few episodes under your belt already. Did you know when you got the role how long you'd be in for? Did you kind of have an idea? And is it just a case now of just wanting to be in it as much as possible?
Well, at the end of the day, I think, you want to honor what the writers think is best for the story. Because at the end of the day, that's what's best for you. To be an actor who survives 20 episodes, but on a show that people don't trust the writing anymore, that because they kept a guy around who didn't need to be around, that's not something you want to do. So I'm always happy with whatever they decide to do. I trust the writers, and you have to. But when we got it, I think both Jason and I, it said possible recurring. So we thought maybe it'll be 1 episode, hopefully it'll be 2, maybe it'll be 3. So once we booked that first one and the second one came along, things were left in kind of a way that you kind of knew, oh, we might be back. They didn't tell us that we were going to be back, but it felt very much that way. And then when you don't die and you end up killing someone like Benjamin, I basically spent the off-season hoping they would have me back, but you never know. They could have time jumped and come back to explain it later or something and completely written me out. Sometimes they do. You have to abandon storylines. That's the way TV goes sometimes. But yes, and we had no idea, really, and it's really surprised me, actually.
And just lastly on Jared, I wanted to ask, obviously when you did kill Benjamin, it doesn't just stop there. You were winding up Morgan about it, or Jared rather, not you, was winding up Morgan about that particular death. And as we've said earlier, he really isn't a nice character to kind of come across, but you're very distinctive. I mean, on the show, you've got such long hair. In the streets, when you walk around, do you have people kind of taking a double glance? Are they angry at you in the streets, treating you as Jared rather than Josh?
No, well, it's funny, like doing the cons, usually I wear my hair up just around because I'm tired. It's just obnoxiously long, and, it gets in your mouth when you're eating and just whatever. It's just the worst. It's the worst. I don't know how long-haired anyone does it.
You're going to cut it off?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. I've been urging the writer. I lean over to Alex, producer, every once in a while. I'm like, hey, man, you think anything might happen where Jared can get his hair cut off in like a Samson and Delilah sort of like power loss kind of situation? But no, I just have to hang on. And acting with it leads me towards a certain type, and it's been really beneficial for me to have this look, because I look like a crack addict and a drug dealer. But yeah, no, people don't, at cons, people approach me and the first thing they say is like, oh, you're a real jerk, on the show. But once we get talking, everybody's kind.
Moving away from The Walking Dead, I wanted to ask, obviously you were in the Stephen King film Cell. You played a villain in that as well, alongside some brilliant actors. What was that like as a project to work on?
It was wild when you're playing essentially a zombie who is kind of a figment. I don't know if you've read that book, but the character Raggedy Man, and he haunts the lead's Clay Rydell's dreams in a way that he's kind of like tapping into his consciousness. So, to play something that is kind of like supernatural in a way, that's a weird challenge, because when you're an actor who is entirely too much in his head all the time, you're thinking like, how do I approach this and whatever. But really it was much simpler than I was making it out to be. But the film itself was wild. We shot it here in Atlanta. It was a really short shoot. I think they tried to get the whole thing in 28 shooting days. I think it was a very quick shoot. But to be around folks like Sam Jackson and John Cusack and Stacy Keach, who I've admired for a long, long time, that was an amazing thing. But we had a snowstorm during the whole thing, so it threw some dates off, and things got wild. People got trapped up in hotels in North Atlanta. The whole shoot was, I was amazed the film came together.
Moving on to your future projects that are coming up now, I was looking through on IMDb some of the things you're in, and you're in so much coming up, and I read it as well that you are a drummer and you're a playwright as well. How the hell do you get time to fit everything in?
Well, yeah, it's funny because now that acting has kind of taken front and center, I have less time to write. I'm actually about to head out to write today for the first time in a while. The nice thing about being published as a playwright is that stuff just kind of operates autonomously. So I don't have to do much. I still get productions every once in a while, which is nice. But drumming, we have a couple weekends. We used to tour 9 months out of the year, but the rest of the band has had children, and we all have burgeoning careers, and we had to take some time back. But we have a 4-day tour planned in April, and we're still writing and stuff, but it's less of a time suck than it used to be.
One of the projects that you're in, one of the films coming up that I'm really excited to see, actually, I think you starring alongside Chandler Riggs and also Jason Warner-Smith, who we've spoken about, is Only. What's that film been like? Are you excited for that to come out?
It should be cool. It's another post-apocalyptic piece, and kind of in the vein of Children of Men and The Road. My stuff on it is relatively small. It was a cool little scene that I took, by and large, to work with the director, PK, who is a Atlanta director, and to be on a piece that was kind of born and executed here in Atlanta, and also to work with my buddy Mark and Jason again. It's a cool little thing, and it'll be a fun little scene that I appear in. But I think it's going to be a fun little film, though. Hopefully it'll hit some festivals and make it over y'all's side of the pond there. And
I hope so.
We'll see.
And AntMan as well. Marvel, of course. What's your kind of role in AntMan?
I play one of Walton Goggins' kind of guys, the knockaround guy or whatever. My stuff is, again, relatively small. It's funny, I get a lot of, just like by the nature of the look, again, I get a lot of tough guy, dirtbags. But it's a really cool couple of scenes or sequence, and I'm excited for folks to see that. I can't talk too much about it, but yeah, I'm excited for folks to see that one.
Oh, brilliant. And lastly, is there any other projects, I see on your IMDb you've got a lot, but any other projects that you're particularly excited for fans to hear about?
Yeah, I'm in Game Night, which is one of the larger roles I've had in a big studio feature like this. I couldn't be more proud of it. It's a really sharp script, and it's really well-timed. The editor did a fantastic job. Mark Perez, the writer, killed it, and John Francis Daly and John Goldstein, the directors, just really did right by the script. So after you get done seeing Black Panther for the second or third time, go and see Game Night. That's my pitch for it. It really is a fun, smart comedy. I think it just got released this week or last weekend over in the UK. And then I have a bit part in I, Tonya that I think is a great film and an amazing thing to be a part of. And then there's another film that I have a little bit part in called Love, Simon that is out next week. And then actually this week I have a little bit like one line in The Leisure Seeker with Helen Mirren and Donald Sutherland.
Oh, right.
So it's just all over the place. Yeah.
You don't stop.
Just walk into your theater and I may show up.
Yeah, gotta be honest, Game Night looks brilliant. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. I appreciate you for having me. Hi, my name's Josh Mikel. I play Jared in The Walking Dead, and you're listening to Raw.